The airport buzzed with the familiar symphony of rolling luggage, overhead announcements, and the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee. Travelers moved briskly through the terminal, their faces lit with the anticipation of journeys ahead. Among them was Leila Martinez, a 17-year-old with a quiet confidence that belied her age. Her dark curls framed her face, and her bright eyes sparkled with excitement. Today was no ordinary day. It was her first time flying first class. Lila's father, Carlos Martinez, had surprised her with the ticket as a reward for her academic achievements and her recent acceptance into a prestigious university. It was a gift that symbolized his pride in her hard work and determination. As Leila stood in line at the gate, clutching her boarding pass, she couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. Her phone buzzed with a message from her dad. "Enjoy every moment, Mia. You've earned this." She smiled, typing a quick reply before stepping forward to board the plane. The first-class cabin was everything Lila had imagined: spacious seats, soft lighting, and an air of exclusivity. She made her way to her assigned seat, her heart racing with excitement. But as she reached her row, a flight attendant named Monica stepped in front of her, blocking her path. "Can I help you?" Monica asked, her tone polite but tinged with skepticism. Lila held up her boarding pass. "This is my seat," she said, her voice steady despite the sudden unease creeping into her chest. Monica glanced at the ticket, her eyebrows arching slightly. "First class?" she repeated, her tone laced with doubt. "Are you sure this is your assigned seat?" Lila's cheeks flushed. "Yes, my dad bought it for me. It's right here, seat 3A. Monica crossed her arms, her lips curling into a faint smirk. "Your dad bought it? Let's double-check with the gate agent, just to be sure." Nearby passengers began to glance over, their whispers growing louder. A man in a tailored suit raised an eyebrow, while a woman across the aisle offered Lila a sympathetic look. The weight of their stares made Lila's stomach churn. She clenched her fists, trying to steady her breathing. "I don't understand," Lila said, her voice trembling slightly. "This is my ticket. I belong here." Monica sighed, her tone dripping with condescension. "Fine, sit for now. But if there's a mistake, you'll need to move." Lila nodded, slipping into her seat. She could feel the heat of embarrassment rising in her chest, but she refused to let it show. She sat upright, her chin lifted slightly, determined to hold her ground. She reached for her phone, her thumb hovering over her dad's number. Part of her wanted to call him, to hear his reassuring voice, but she hesitated. Carlos had always taught her to face challenges with grace and confidence. "You belong wherever you choose to be," he would say. Those words echoed in her mind now, giving her the strength to stay calm. The tension in the cabin was palpable as Monica returned, this time accompanied by the gate agent. The flight attendant's expression was one of thinly veiled irritation, while the gate agent looked nervous, glancing between Lila and the boarding pass in his hand. "Miss," Monica began, her tone clipped, "we've reviewed your ticket and—" Before she could finish, the cabin door opened and Carlos Martinez stepped onto the plane. Dressed in a sharp suit and carrying an air of quiet authority, his presence immediately commanded attention. His sharp eyes scanned the cabin, landing on Lila. The moment their gazes met, her shoulders relaxed slightly, and she offered him a faint, relieved smile. Carlos walked purposefully down the aisle, his tall frame exuding confidence. Monica turned toward him, her irritation momentarily giving way to confusion. "Sir, we're just handling a seating issue here," she said, forcing a polite tone. Carlos didn't slow his stride. "A seating issue?" he repeated, his voice calm but carrying a weight that silenced the murmurs around him. "With my daughter?" Monica blinked, her mouth opening and closing as she processed his words. "Your daughter?" she echoed weakly. Carlos stopped beside Lila, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder before turning to face Monica and the gate agent. "Yes, my daughter, and I'd like to know why she's being questioned about her seat, especially when her boarding pass clearly states she belongs here." The gate agent stammered, his face flushing with embarrassment. "Mr. Martinez, I apologize for the misunderstanding. There seems to have been a mix-up with the seating arrangements." Carlos's gaze hardened. "A mix-up? Or an assumption?" he asked, his tone cutting through the tension like a knife. "Because it seems to me that my daughter was singled out based on nothing more than her age and appearance." Monica shifted uncomfortably, her earlier confidence evaporating. "Sir, I assure you, it was just a routine check." "Routine?" Carlos interrupted, his voice rising slightly. "Would you have questioned a middle-aged man in a suit the same way? Or is this routine reserved for young women who don't fit your idea of what a first-class passenger should look like?" The cabin fell silent, the weight of his words settling over the passengers. A man in a tailored suit across the aisle cleared his throat, then spoke hesitantly. "Mr. Martinez, I just want to say, I'm sorry. We all should have spoken up earlier." A woman in the row ahead of Lila chimed in, her tone genuine. "She's lucky to have a father like you, and for what it's worth, she handled herself beautifully." Carlos turned to Lila, his expression softening. "Are you okay, Mia?" he asked, his voice filled with concern. Lila nodded, though her voice trembled slightly. "I'm fine, Dad. But why does this always happen? Why do people assume?" Carlos crouched slightly to meet her gaze at eye level. "Because some people don't see beyond their own biases," he said gently. "But today, they learned that assumptions have consequences. And more importantly, you showed them what it means to handle a situation with grace." As he stood up, Carlos addressed the cabin, his voice calm but deliberate. "To everyone here, let this be a reminder. The next time you see someone, don't assume you know their story based on how they look or what you think you know. Every person deserves respect, whether they're my daughter, a stranger, or anyone else." The cabin remained silent, the passengers absorbing his words. The flight attendant from another section approached, placing a fresh glass of sparkling water on Lila's tray with a kind smile. "From the crew, with our sincerest apologies," she said, her voice genuine. Lila glanced at her dad, who nodded approvingly. She sipped the water, letting the moment of vindication sink in. As the plane soared through the sky, she gazed out the window, watching the clouds drift past. The tension of the earlier confrontation was fading, replaced by a sense of quiet pride. Carlos leaned back in his seat, glancing at his daughter. "Remember, Lila," he said, his voice warm but firm, "you belong wherever you choose to be, and no one has the right to make you feel otherwise." Lila nodded, her confidence growing with his words. "I just wish people didn't judge so quickly." Carlos leaned forward slightly, his tone carrying the weight of years of wisdom. "People will judge no matter what. It's not right, but it's the reality. What matters is how you respond. Every time you rise above it, every time you demand the respect you deserve, you're teaching the world to be better." As the flight continued, Lila felt a newfound sense of strength. She had faced prejudice head-on and emerged stronger for it. And with her father by her side, she knew she could handle whatever challenges lay ahead. The world might not always be fair, but she had the tools to navigate it with grace, resilience, and an unshakable belief in her own worth.